Wait, this ain't an interview. I'm the new co-host.
Yes.
Well, yeah. No, I'm not saying this. I'm just saying no. Let's drive that through right now. This isn't one of our normal interview episodes, guys. This is you hate to see it moving forward.
Yeah.
This is a progress.
Yeah.
Sorry, Nick.
All right, everyone, welcome to this brand new episode of You Hate to See It. And this is probably going to be the best episode ever, and you will find out in a second. But my name is Adam.
I'm Jeff.
And the reason this is the best episode is because we finally have replaced Nick. Welcome, Dan, the new Nick of a podcast.
Yes! Hey, thanks for letting me take his spot. That's what happens when you don't show up for your recordings. You get replaced. Now you're done. You're done, kid. Go sit down in the corner.
We have the limit of one. You miss one and you get replaced in that one.
Yeah,
that's how most jobs work. You miss a shift, they're like, Nick, you're done. You're fired.
It's usually not this fast on replacing, though. It's not like, all right, well, you're already replaced. We had a line.
To be fair, a few episodes ago, Nick was an hour and a half late to the recording.
Oh, man. Wow, see, that's... yeah.
Which really fucked everyone.
Well, that's what happens. That's what happens. When you don't show up and you're late, you get replaced. And it's entertainment, so it's easy to replace somebody. There's always somebody on standby waiting to be the next Nick.
Nick was pretty... Well, we just want better than Nick because Nick wasn't the entertaining part. That might have been a little harsh, but we'll see. We'll get there.
You said it. I didn't.
I'll add the laugh track.
Yay.
And then it'll be like a regular TV show, like sitcom.
That's what we should do. Adam, that's our new thing. We're going to do sitcom podcasts.
It's going to be
let's do it. Scripted podcast. We'll do it.
Put that laugh track in and it'll be like a sitcom from the 80s. It's great.
I'm sure people will love to hear our voices with a laugh track in the back of it. I'm sure they'll love it.
We'll find out. What if it's our most viewed episode? That would be
I guess we do it. I guess that's what we roll with now.
So Dan, tell us a little bit about yourself before we get going here.
Well, I'm a stand-up comedian, currently based in St. Paul, Minnesota. Been doing comedy for almost 11 years now. And I just recently filmed a dry bar comedy special. And I'm currently in the middle of a tour as I'm getting ready to do an album recording at the end of August.
How does dry bar comedy work? Do they seek you out? Do you how's that work?
So like most things with comedy, there's a booker or somebody that, books the talent booker. And for how it worked for me is I knew other people that had done it, and I asked them about what the process was. They gave me the information, and then you have to submit to the booker, just like late night shows. A lot of times, late night talent bookers, you have to kind of seek them out and submit your stuff. And if they think you're good enough for whatever they're booking for, then they'll book you. Essentially. And in dry bar's case, you have to be clean, obviously, because that's their whole thing. They make content that is safe for work, essentially, so anybody can watch it, and you're not going to have to worry about having offensive material or offensive language or anything like that.
So we always start the podcast by telling everyone what we are drinking, and this week I am drinking a gross mixture of Pink Whitney and ginger ale because that's what I have.
I see we're on the same level of our alcohol here, Adam, as I am also going through the last bits of my fridge before I restock it. Because I have peach mango vodka with Pepsi because I have no other mixers.
That's worse than mine for some reason.
Wow, that does sound worse than
Alcohol's alcohol at this point.
That's fair. That's fair.
I found this at the bottom of a drawer. It's a Barefoot hard seltzer, probably going to be awful also. And then I got this singular Bud Light. And then I think I have
not a case, not a 12-pack, not a 6-pack.
Oh, it was a 24. It was at one point. And then I have some Angry Orchard somewhere in there. So We'll
Nice.
see.
That is kind of a whole mirage podge of alcohol.
It's just what's ever been left here from parties and stuff that I'm finally just getting to at the bottom before I restock my beer fridge.
It's the way to do it. The way to do it. I am being healthy. And by healthy, I mean I'm drinking the old Blue Moon Light Sky. One of the better low carb, low calorie beers I've ever had.
You a seltzer guy?
I do drink seltzers, but I really like beer. But I'm diabetic. I got type 2 diabetes, so I got to watch my carb intake a little bit. So I have to do balance. But I'm a kind of a beer snob, and I really like craft beer, which isn't always good for me.
God, I love beer.
Me too.
We just had a guest on from Germany who is really big in beer and stuff and does beer tours and things like that. And
yeah, he owns like a travel.
He owns like a travel
awesome.
agency thing that they
and
do
all
beer
of his things are all of his things
he's
based around like
Oktoberfest and-
just alcohol.
Oh, that's amazing. That sounds like a travel agent I need to meet. I love going to breweries and stuff, like local breweries and stuff when I travel. And I collect steins too. When our pint glasses and different things. They're not steins, I guess, pint glasses from the breweries and stuff. Like if I really like their beer, I'll buy one of their pint glasses. And I've got probably way too many. I was in Montana a couple weeks ago. And I went out to Montana the year before I have family out there, and I went out for my cousin's wedding. And my other cousin introduced me to honey huckleberry vodka that is distilled in Montana. And huckleberry is a big thing in Montana. Like they have like huckleberry jam, huckleberry pies, like huckleberries are huge out there. But this vodka was so amazing. And when I left, I bought one bottle. And I bought it thinking, oh, we'll just, drink it on special occasions. Pretty much powered through it because it was so good. It's like you can make these honey huckleberry lemonade vodkas. Oh, my God. They're amazing.
That sounds phenomenal.
So I was there a couple of weeks ago, and I bought a whole case to bring back with me. I went to the liquor store, and I was like, all right, so they had it like on the top shelf, and I went for a particular brand. And I grabbed 2 bottles. I was like, so there's 3 more bottles on the shelf that I can't quite get without, I don't want to risk breaking other stuff. But if you could go get them for me, I'll take them too. And the cashier looked at me like, what? You want all 3 of them down? I was like, yes. And then the other cashiers was like, wait, you're buying 5 of these? Yes. And that was the second liquor store because I had bought some from another one, but they only had like 1 bottle.
So I was looking you up a little bit, and I saw is this your first recorded special that it was supposed to be a love story?
Oh yeah, that's the first. So that was a 1-person show that I did.
Okay.
It's the host show is kind of based on a relationship that I was in that went awry. And it was a real crazy thing that happened. Basically, I was with this woman, we got engaged, and then we were going to get married, and we had a wedding, and then a few days later she decided she didn't want to be married anymore. Turned out she was kind of she says she wasn't having the affair then, but it sure did seem like it. Mm-hmm. Basically seemed like she was having an affair, was pregnant with this person's kid. Like it was a whole weird thing, and it was very public and messy. But yeah, so I wrote that 1-person show about that crazy relationship that I was in. And and it mixes, it isn't just stand up. So there is stand up in it, but I mixed in, I write, I guess I don't currently, haven't really written anything in a while, but I also write poetry. And that was a thing. Like I was writing a lot of poetry after the breakup. And so I made this show where I combined some of my poetry with some of my stand up into that. And then it tells the story of kind of our relationship and what happened and so on and so forth, kind of from my perspective of it. And so I wrote that.
Fuck that bitch.
Yeah, exactly. Yeah, so I did that, and then after I toured it a little bit, and then I filmed it, and it was on Amazon for a while until Amazon was like, "This isn't got enough ratings to be. We need to make room for other people with better stuff." That's essentially well, and that's when I learned you need to have a marketing plan when you do something like that. So now I went to school for marketing because, yeah, I learned a valuable lesson with that. You need a marketing plan when you do stuff, especially when you're independent. And but now it still lives. It still lives on YouTube, and it's also so it's available on my YouTube, and it also is a spoken word album too. So like people can stream it on Pandora or Spotify, things like that. So it's still out there, just not on Amazon anymore. But there's a record that it was. It's still, if you look it up, you'll find it on Amazon. You just can't watch it.
So how did she feel? Did she ever contact you after the special came out of like what the fuck?
Yeah, if it was so public beforehand, then you were like, well, let's do some fucking comedy around this shit.
But I'm gonna record this and put this out for the world.
Yeah,
well, on Amazon, nonetheless.
Honestly, I looked at it this way. At that point, I didn't really care what her feelings were because it was just from my perspective. And in the special, I try to be as honest as I could. And it wasn't like a show where I threw her under the bus. You know, like I wasn't like just totally crapping on her as a human, you know, like I admit to my own problems, that in my own issues in the relationship. I mean, the relationship just wasn't good. We weren't good for each other, and it's better now. I'm in a way better place than I was when I was with that person. And so, you know, I didn't really care because it was a story from my perspective. I know she was angry about it, but she never really contacted me, but she definitely would like say things to mutual friends that we had about it. And the way I looked at it is that it was my story too.
Yeah.
So
I bet you somewhere there on Amazon, there's a 1-star rating that you can go and find that just says, "This son of a bitch."
Right.
So I also see that you worked on a sketch show called Sue Empire Tonight.
Well, that was more like, it wasn't a sketch show. That was actually kind of a late night style TV show. That was the idea. It was but more local. So it was like a Tonight Show, but it was based out of Sioux Falls. So I ended up being the executive producer on that. I originally it was like a whole independent thing that we were doing with some other local comics. And originally I was just going to try to be the head writer, but nobody really knew how to produce anything or be a producer. And so I stepped up and kind of ended up being the executive producer and the one of the main writers for the show. But yeah, we modeled it after late night TV where we had a host and he would do a monologue, and we did monologue jokes, but they were all local to the Sioux Falls and surrounding areas. We did things like that. We do a couple national things, but most of it was local. And then it featured local stand-up comedians and musicians and things like that. So, but it was like all no budget. We didn't have any funding. It was all volunteer. A lot of work went into it. And so we ended up only doing like 4 or 5 episodes before everybody, and I told everybody kind of going into it, I was like, this is a lot of work. I don't think you guys understand what we're about to embark on. And after about 5 episodes, people were like, yeah, this is a lot of work for not making money. But it was a fun experience.
I think I've only been to Sioux Falls once. That was for my freshman year of college. The women's basketball team went to the NAIA national championship, and we drove up there, and that was a fucking blast. I was also hammered, so
that's a good way to experience South Dakota.
Well, I mean, South Dakota and watching women's basketball. So,
is there a drinking game on this podcast where people listening have to take a drink when they hear something that might be offensive? If they get offended by something.
Oh, if it was that. Oh,
if it was every time we said something offensive, we wouldn't make it through the podcast. The only rule we have is when we say you hate to see it and when we say Ferda. And I don't remember which one was when we first started. It was take a shot for one of them and then just take a sip for the other one.
For whenever someone said you hate to see it was a shot, Ferda was just the everyone drink.
So, okay, I have to ask you guys this.
Yeah.
What is the title of the podcast inspired by?
So
a stupid thing Jeff used to say.
did we? Oh God, I don't think we've ever actually gone through this on the podcast.
Because
So
it's a very misleading title
yeah.
in a sense.
Well, it didn't used to be. We after like episode 10, we stopped saying all of our shit because we, I guess, kind of funneled in. But so you hate to see it was something I said all the fucking time in college. So we
And you didn't know you said it either.
I didn't know I said it that often. And then but Adam picked it up from me and also said it. And Adam and I were always together. So people heard it way too fucking often.
Yeah, so in college we played D&D together, and when something would happen, like that, now you would say like big hoof, or like, oh well, you hate to see that, like playing D&D, and Jeff said it constantly, and that just became a thing for us.
And then
that's great, because that actually, the title though, you hate to see it, it sounds like this would be like a movie or TV review podcast.
so we used to review stuff. We don't really anymore. So I mean,
it's almost, it reminds me of like a how did this get made podcast in a sense, where it's like you're watching bad stuff that nobody would want to watch.
So you hate it still kind of works for us because we also, under this, like our name, we do a true crime podcast, so it works out for that. Like, so it's you hate to see it, and it's because it's true crime, you do hate to see it, like so it still works out.
And also, we didn't start off by doing videos, and our shtick was like, we are so bad that you don't want to see us do this.
Okay.
So just listen to us instead. I think we had a tagline for a while that was like something along those lines, that you don't want to see us, but definitely listen to us. Well, since you said you liked comic books, we'll go and I'll hop onto this bandwagon for a little bit. What are you currently reading?
I read a lot of independent stuff, so this is going to be kind of I'm going to probably get a lot of heat for this, but I'm not a big mainstream person. When I say I'm not a big mainstream person, I'm not really into Marvel. I'm not really into DC. Do they have great characters? Do they have yes, absolutely great stuff. They put out great stuff. But I used to own a comic book store, so there's a little bit of history. I owned a comic book store from 2003 until 2009, and I'm not a big mainstream comic book guy because I saw what they do. Whenever they have a major story arc, they arc it into every title that they put out. And if you want to get like the full complete story, you need to like get an issue of this and an issue of that and yada, yada, yada. So it's just a big marketing ploy is all it ends up doing to sell more titles. Understand from a business perspective where they're going with that. As a reader and a collector, I'm like, I don't like that, because if I don't like a particular character, I don't want to have to go buy these books to get the full story. I like the writing. I like the stories. So I'm more of an independent guy. I like independent comics more than I like mainstream titles. I like Batman as a character, and some other, I like Deadpool and Gambit is my favorite X-Men and things like that. So like I've definitely delved into that, the mainstream stuff. But for me, it's all about independent stuff. Like my favorite writer is probably Ed Brubaker, and as an artist, Sean Phillips. They're a great team. They do Criminal. And right now they've got a graphic novel series that they've been putting out. There's like going to be 3 books called Reckless. They do a lot of crime and noir type of stuff, and I really like that kind of content. So those are kind of my people in the comic book world. But right now I'm reading a lot of independent stuff. Like I just picked up Vinyl, which is I just picked up the first issue. I am not sure. It kind of has to do with like a killer situation. I bought Masters of the Universe Revelations as a comic. That was pretty good so far. What else do I read? God, I got so much. You know what I'm gonna do? I'm anal and I keep track of it in my phone.
Same.
I use the comic book League of Comic Book Geeks
That's
app
exactly what I use. Yep.
to keep track of all my stuff and all my orders and everything. Um, Here we go. All right. So yeah, I just started reading Ordinary Gods, which was pretty good. Oops.
This is the person I should be talking to because I prefer independent because the I don't read comic books often and I mean I bought some and I still haven't actually gone through most of
Yeah,
them.
well, and another thing that I really like about a lot of the independent stuff that I read, they're usually mini series.
Yeah.
Like they'll usually be like 5 to 10 books total in them. Usually it's more 5 to 6. So the cool thing is about this is that I can constantly change my pull list. So every few months, I'm getting different titles. So it's not always the same, because most people only have so much money they can spend on whatever their hobby is. You have a certain budget that you can spend, and that's it. So it's a nice way for me to like not overspend on comic books and still get a variety. Like if I was collecting a lot of the mainstream titles, well, my titles would have to be the same every month because they constantly put that stuff out all the time. And then it doesn't give me a lot of room to like branch out into some other stuff. That's another reason I like the independent stuff.
So you are very much like me in terms of comics. Except like I haven't really gotten into a lot of the independents, but like I only buy the ongoing Captain Marvel. That's my only
Mhm.
ongoing. But I do still buy a lot of DC and Marvel by doing their short series, like
Oh yeah, like the
their
miniseries and
yeah, their
stuff.
mini
Yep.
series, their 7 issue runs. I'm reading Challenge of the Super Sons, which is Superboy and Damian Wayne fight
Hmm.
to like go traveling through time, fighting together, and it's
Oh,
seven
that's
issues,
cool.
and it's a monthly. It's 7 issues, and it's done. And
Yep.
I'm reading like Joker right now, which I think is another 7 issue series.
I will say
And
Deceased was really good. I mean,
Beast is
I only got the first book of it, but
so
Deceased was
yeah.
really good.
Deceased is phenomenal. It's one of the best pieces of writing I've ever read. And it's Deceased is just all the DC characters, and it's a standalone thing that it was a 7 issue series and then had a sequel 3 issue series and another sequel like 5 issue series.
I might have to look for the trade on that. Yeah, because that's another thing that I like with Ed Brubaker as an example. So I kind of got out of comics and got back into them about 5 or 6 years ago, and I just discovered them here recently, which was great because they've been doing stuff for years. So like it's good and bad. It's good because I'm discovering all this stuff. It's bad because there's so much stuff out there now too. So it's like, oh no, I don't know what to get. But I've been reading their series Criminal. I've been buying all the trade paperbacks for that. That's a really good really good crime series. But Money Shot is another one I really like, and that's from Vault Comics. Vault Comics has put out a lot of great stuff. And then Image, I do read a lot of stuff from Image. That Texas Blood is a really good crime book that the artist is actually Sean Phillips' son, I believe, or his son is involved somehow. And Sean Phillips is a comic book artist. Blue Flame is another one. Keanu Reeves has got a book out, Berserker. That's been pretty good too. It's
I've heard about that. That is good. I've been thinking about looking into it.
yeah. Oh, I guess the one ongoing book that I do get quite a bit is James Bond. They started doing James Bond a few years ago, and I started collecting them. And that's like the only like ongoing thing that I've had for years. Everything else is pretty like I said, very independent. A lot of Image comics is what it ends up. Image and Vault
Yeah.
happen to be an Aftershock, or probably three of the biggest publishers that I get stuff from.
Yeah. So I'm a big Spider-Man fan, and Marvel does a lot of Spider-Man miniseries. And so right now they just this week finished up a series called Spider Shadow, which is like one of their what if series about if Spider-Man with the Venom symbiote killed someone and then revealed himself to J. Jonah Jameson. And
Huh.
like, what the hell are they going to do now and figuring this out? I like a lot of the Spider-Man symbiote stuff. They have symbiote Spider-Man of like a series going on with like a bunch of different mini series that are sequels to each other of symbiote Spider-Man, which is really good.
Now, I personally have not been a big Spider-Man fan. However, the Into the Spider-Verse, that was so good. I know I'm not a big Spider-Man fan, and I'm not a big Superman fan. And I know
Superman's the worst comic book character ever.
And I know they're both like the golden boys for each, for Marvel and DC, but I'm just like,
I mean,
but
why Superman ever loses is a mystery to me. I don't know how you can have a compelling character that can literally do anything.
No, I know. That's why they had to invent things to make him weak.
And like it's always kryptonite, and it becomes like the MacGuffin that you're just like, oh, shut up now. Like
they had to invent it in order for him to have a weakness, because otherwise he didn't have a weakness. He just the character's so far-fetched. And then
I mean, even the movies do that. Like if you like the movies do the same thing, because Batman like basically kills Superman with kryptonite, and then they can't win in Justice League. They literally can't win until they revive Superman, and then Superman comes in and literally just beats the ever-living fuck out of him single-handedly. Like
at least in the movies, they gave his, like, people hate on Man of Steel, but it gave the character of Superman an interesting enough backstory to understand why he pulls his punches. It's not great, but it's better.
Yeah, my biggest pet peeve though with Superman is that people can't tell the difference between Clark Kent and Superman.
I don't understand it at all.
That pisses me off, because taking off your glasses and putting a little curl does not.
Wait, where is Dan? Oh, holy shit!
I thought we had,
right? Oh shit! Sorry,
I honestly thought we had Nick back for a second. So
yeah, my alter ego.
Have you ever read any of the Zenoscope comics?
Oh, Zenoscope? Oh man, I love Zenoscope. I don't keep up on like a lot of their current stuff, but I buy their quarterlies quite a bit. I actually remember they started when I owned my comic book store. They were a new company then. And the fact that they're still going is amazing. Ren and Stimpy kind of got me into comic books. Like one of the first comic books I bought was the Powdered Toast comic from Ren and Stimpy. It was like a special. I don't really collect like most of the I'm not really a collector as much as I am a reader. Like everything I buy it because I read it. Once in a while, I will pick up a variant cover or an extra variant cover or something as a collector, but I mostly just read. But because that's kind of what got me into comics in the first place, I did go back and get the entire Ren and Stimpy run. And I think I'm like one comic away from one of their annuals, and then I'll have every Ren and Stimpy comic that Marvel put out.
Jeff, do you have anything? I'm just
I know, I feel so bad for him. We're like going into hardcore.
No, man, it's fine. I mean, I'm the one that runs the True Crime, which is 75% me talking. So
well, see now, True Crime. That's why I'm a big true crime guy too. That's why most of the comics I read are true crime, or they're not true crime, but they're crime inspired. You know what I mean? Like that's why I like the detective type stuff and the crime and the noir, because I listen to a lot of true crime podcasts too. So like I'm big into true crime.
What's your favorite? What's your favorite true crime podcast?
It's a toss up. I really like Sword and Scale. I like his storytelling style. Him as a person, I'm not a fan of. He's kind of a douche. Same. Yeah, but I really like his podcast, and I really like how he does the storytelling. But he's a douche. And I really like True Crime Garage. That's another one that I really like.
I've listened to a couple of those.
Yeah, but I think one of my favorites is called the Heist Podcast. So they just they try to stay away from murder. You know, some stories will have murder in it or whatever and death, but they mostly just it's true crime about heists, like famous heists and things that have happened throughout history and in the world and stuff. And it's a fun podcast.
So we mostly just we try to kind of stay away from like the big names everyone knows or what every true crime podcast like. So serial killers usually not something we'll cover. So we do a lot of like the bigger ones we've done are a lot of the one crime that everyone knows about. So Chris Watts. We did.
Mhm.
And we
just finished up Drew Peterson.
And upcoming, we'll be doing Larry Nassar. So the Olympic gymnasts
trainer,
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 who sexually abused 256 or over 200 women.
Jesus, yep.
Yeah, so we try to hit on like
girls, but
children, really, if you want to.
Really.
So yeah, we do what we're doing now. We just drink and then go through true crime and try to explain it, but we try to make it more conversation than us just throwing a bunch of facts at you.
Mm-hmm.
So we'll lay down the foundation and the facts, and then Nick will go on his drunken psychology rampage of the person. Adam will just shit talk the person the entire time. And
what's this podcast called?
Drunken Jurors. It's under You Hate to See It.
Yeah,
but it's
we do release every week. So we release every Monday, but it's bi-weekly on what podcast you get. So
okay, right on. Yeah, that's one thing I actually was trying. I was thinking about starting a true crime podcast, and I started doing some of the marketing, and people were interested, and then I got lazy and just didn't do it.
If you want to co-host, that'll help out. Your boy.
Or you could hop onto ours. Honestly, if you want, hop onto ours.
Yeah, if there's any topics that you wanted to do an episode on but you didn't, just let us know. We'll all do we can all do the research, and we'll just fucking put it out there.
I was gonna specialize more at the time in true crime within like South Dakota. It was gonna be more regional, just because. So I grew up. So this is a little bit about me. So I grew up in a town called Huron, South Dakota. It's a town. When I grew up, there was about 19,000 to 20,000 people. It's decreased a lot over the years, and now it's about 12 to 13,000 people. But I was doing the math one day. Like, there was a lot of murder that has happened in that town, and I figured it out to where it was like there was a murder almost every 3 years if you like averaged it out. Like, from like as far as I could go back and find, and these were actually, it wasn't even going back into like looking at news or anything. It was just going back to murders that I knew of in my lifetime in this town. And it averaged to be like one in every 3 years. To me, that seems like a lot for a town of that size. Yeah. Maybe not, but to me, I was like, that seems like a lot. And they weren't all like because of the same thing. It wasn't like all drug related. Like, they were crimes of passion. There was a murder where a guy killed his mistress because she was pregnant. And there was this woman who went crazy and killed her kid because she was all messed up with religion. And then there was this another guy killed this dude because he was stalking his wife. Like, and that was really crazy to me because it happened in high school outside our local 7-Eleven. And I had literally just left the 7-Eleven. Like, I go there every day on my way to school, and I just did my thing, and I saw the guy that got shot like there. And then I went on my way, and then somebody that I went to high school with, his dad was the one that shot this person. Like, just walked up to him in the car and just shot him. It insane. But like, so there's been like all these different things that have happened, like shootings, and another instance where a kid like killed his mom, I think, with a sword, and then attacked the police with a sword. So like all kinds of different crazy things. That's why I was inspired to be like, there's a lot of like true crime that happens in smaller towns that doesn't necessarily get profiled.
So there is actually a huge podcast, and it's one of my top ones. It's called Small Town Murder.
Mm-hmm. Yep.
Love it. Great. Yep. Fuck it. I mean, each episode's like 2 to 3 hours long though, but they are amazing. Those episodes are great. I love listening to them.
And that was another thing when I started researching this. The name is slipping me, but there was a sheriff of Beetle County, which was the county that I lived in, that ended up becoming a notorious hitman for the mob.
Jesus.
Like, yeah, like it was crazy. Like, he grew up in Kimball, South Dakota, joined the military, then came back, and then he became the sheriff, and then he got crooked. He kind of became, he was really into prohibition and running alcohol and being muscle for some people. And then he ended up ultimately he ended up in jail off and on, and then he started working as a hit person for the mob, and then like somebody killed one of his buddies, and so then he went out and he like killed some high ranking mob people as retaliation for them killing his friend, and then ultimately he met his demise when he was in his early 30s outside of Detroit, like got shot. Like, yeah, so like, and it was
Can't have
crazy
shit in
because it's
Detroit.
yeah. But it's like crazy to hear stories like that because the town is so small. But like, and that was like back in the 30s.
Yeah, we'll be in touch. We'll come up with something for you for the true crime one. True crime is fun. It's fun, especially when you like get into the like just the crazy details of some things are just it's just wild. Like it gets out of hand so fast, and it's just like it's either like, oh my god, the police fucking suck. What were they thinking? Or it's like, oh, how did this even start to happen? It's like, oh, the warning signs were there for 25 years.
I know that's one of the crazy things too. Like when so it's Vern Miller. Vern Miller was the sheriff that ended up becoming notorious. Like he was on I believe he was on the FBI's most wanted list, and then he became a hitman for the mob. But that's a crazy thing when you listen to a lot of true crime. It's like people are like, well, I was surprised that this has happened. And then they like you look at the evidence and like, why was anybody surprised? Like this person literally tried to get help. And that's one thing I'm realizing too, is that police are lazy. Like, and that's not even like the whole put aside all the other, current events with police. But if you go and you listen to a true crime story, a lot of times a person will reach out for help and they're like, there's nothing we can do, blah, 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 blah. And a lot of these crimes could have been prevented, but because the police were lazy, didn't want to do anything or whatever, somebody ends up getting murdered. And it's
what was the one thing that we talked about like overseas where the police were just dumb as fuck? What's that one episode that we did with the boat? There was a boat. I don't remember.
The one in
like Germany.
Scott Watson. It wasn't in Germany. It was in New Zealand, where the police were just like they were just throwing out random facts that weren't actual facts. They're like, this is our evidence, and it's like that shit never happened. There's like 7 witnesses that say that wasn't a thing.
Yep. Yep. And then another thing I've noticed too is like 911 operators not so great all the time. Like, yeah, it's crazy. Like there was that case where that I forget that I don't have the name, but that he was he basically locked the social service lady out of the house and then burned it down with his kids inside, with him and his kids, like because it was like a whole like thing. Like he had murdered the mom essentially, but they hadn't found the body yet. She went missing, and then her parents got custody of the kids, and then he fought for like visitation, but it was supervised visitation, and she was bringing the kids over, and when she did, he like let the kids in and then quick slammed the door on her and locked the door or whatever, and she called 911, and that operator just kept asking her the dumbest questions. Like she kept answering them and explaining what was happening, and he just kept asking dumb questions before he sent help. And then the guy ended up burning the house down from the inside and killed himself and his 2 small children. And that's a thing where it could have been prevented. And in fact, I think there's even a Dateline special on that one too. Like it was a very popular case. Like
so the cool the thing that makes our true crime a little bit different is Nick and I both have degrees in law enforcement. So
I'm just funny. That's all I am here for.
So we both studied law enforcement throughout college. So we can kind of break down like the law. Like, so when it comes to like sentencing and stuff like that for people, we can break that down a little bit more. We also both have minors in forensic psych. So when it comes to psych breakdowns, we can kind of do those, not perfectly, but we can do those pretty well. So we kind of like, so it's a lot of drunken fun just talking about the crime, but then we also get to say, oh, well, this is why the killer was a fucking idiot. Like, if you know your rights, you probably could have done this, like, in just like, or vice versa, like different shit, like, or the cops probably shouldn't have done that because this is XYZ bullshit. So
which
I
happens
think
a lot.
yeah. So there's a lot of times where Nick and I are just like, I mean, if you look at it, yeah, this was all dumb as fuck. So it's kind of what makes us a little bit different. And but it's mostly us just drunk talking about true crime and just having a fun time with it, shedding a little bit different light. Let's move on to some D&D, something we've all played. I'm assuming a lot
knew there
of.
was something else that we were going to talk about.
D&D, let's play tonight.
Do you have any favorite D&D experience? Any characters that you've created specifically to fuck over DMs? Because have we done that?
I had a character so when I owned my comic book store, like one of my favorite things is every weekend we would role play. Like there was nights when my comic book shop, we were hanging out at the shop after bars closed. Like we would play, we would role play until like 3-4 in the morning at the shop. And I had a character that I played for several, like I played it for years. Like I ended up getting it into being a high level character. And this was like, we were playing like 3.5 edition, but like I had a character that was like a rogue turned into an assassin who had a relationship with a dragon. I ended up getting a ton of experience from a deck of many things. I got lucky on a draw and like ended up going from like a low level to like a high level right away. Like I went from, I don't know, like level 2 or 3 to like level 13, which definitely speeded me along or whatever. But I played that character for a long time and it was pretty cool to play that character for so long.
I mean, we've done a lot of things. I was a centaur at one point, and Jeff was a dwarf.
I was a gnome cavalier, so that way he could be my steed.
Yeah, we were both fighters, and I made myself the biggest centaur I could possibly be, and he made himself the smallest gnome he could possibly be, so he fit my carrying weight.
Oh, that's hilarious. See, I've been playing online with some of my buddies. We've been using Zoom. We just did a whole big long session on Sunday. We played from like 11 to 6 doing like a one shot.
God, that's just I love those days.
Yeah, those are
we do that days. Once a month now.
Yeah, we played in college together, and then after college we did online, and at least like
it's hard to get through a whole like campaign online.
Yeah, and we all have our different feelings about online. Like for me, it's like I have a really hard time giving a shit about online. It's not the same. I'm a person that I use the energy around me for my own energy, and so it's a different atmosphere, and I can't see people. Like at least like for podcasting, I see everyone. So
so when we do it online, so we use Zoom to communicate, and then depending on the campaign, we use like one group I'm in, we do fantasy grounds. This last time I played, we just did pen and paper, but we just played through Zoom. And it was great because the DM could share the maps and everything he needed to share through Zoom, and all the stuff was right there, which was
we should try that.
Yeah. Like one of my favorite role-playing games was Shadowrun, and then I like playing D20 Modern. It was like D&D, but like in the modern age. So there was like weapons and like guns. And the funnest campaign I've ever done, though, is we did a one-shot back when I had my shop. A friend that DMs a lot put together an evil campaign. And so all the characters had to be evil. And he ran a couple sessions of it. He did like 3 different sessions because everybody wanted to play, because very rarely do you do a campaign where you get to play an evil character. Usually there might be one evil character in the group, or, usually
they fuck it up for everyone.
The one douche fucking everything.
Yeah, exactly. And so this was like, we were all evil. Like that was the thing. We're all evil. And so the gist of the campaign is that the one shot is that as a group, you have to, the goal was to effectively take over this town. And all the other groups failed. There was like 3 groups. Our group was the only one that successfully took over the town. And what we ended up doing is we ended up assassinating a high-ranking city official, and then we framed one of our own members in the group. We set him up, and then we set him up and then murdered him ourselves. And then like basically used bureaucracy to take over this town. We like fooled them into thinking we were heroes, and then we were able to take over the town. It was great.
I have some ideas of like I've always wanted to do like a full evil campaign. Always recently I've wanted to do an all evil campaign where I would be DM of that. I have a few other ideas of like kind of adapting the Percy Jackson books into a campaign, but that one is like a lot of work because that's a campaign that I'd probably let be XP based and then create the world and then just put them in the world. Like I would essentially have to have the whole campaign planned ahead of time as location based things, and then just let them do it.
So what's your favorite? So obviously there's multiple editions and stuff. So what's your favorite edition or just general? Like,
I mean, I
don't
really
know what they're called, books, but whatever you want to call it.
Yeah, there are different editions or whatever. I mean, 3.5 was always fun, but I do really like how 5th edition has simplified things. They've made it a lot easier to play. You know,
you're all heroes.
They made it, yeah. They
You're
made
guys.
you. They
You're
basically made
superheroes.
you. Yeah, they made you the Avengers. Basically, is what you are.
Yeah, but yeah, and they made it, like I said, it's way simpler to play. You have to, you know, with 3rd edition and like or 2nd edition and 3rd and 3.5.
I heard 2nd edition was literally out to kill you. Like you weren't supposed to succeed in 2nd edition.
No, not at all. Like, and that's how long I've been playing. Like I played and so this group that I played with the other day, minus with one person. One person wasn't an original. It's one of the persons that played is a wife of one of the other players who everybody else in the group, we went to high school together. We've been playing D&D, like some of us, the one who DM'd, he joined us. He moved here when we were in high school, moved to our area when he was in high school. But the other 2 people in the group and myself, we've been playing role playing since we were in middle school together. So most of us, though, we've been playing together since we were in high school. So this group that we played online with is like high school people that I went to high school with, and we've been playing since then. So it was fun to do the campaign together. But so that's how long we've been playing. Like I played 2nd edition when I started. That was what was out. But I think, like I said, I really do like 5th edition because they've made it a lot simpler than it used to be. Like it was a lot of
there's so many fucking expansions
and rules and everything.
At this point, like I don't think 6th edition is going to come out for at least 20 years because 5th edition is just so good. Like they've
so
really
good. Like they made it so it's basically they made it simplified and then they just slowly expand on it.
Yeah, and it's made that you can still play simplified if you don't know what the hell you're doing, or you can play bigger if you want to.
Yeah,
and it's very homebrew heavy. Like the book literally says homebrew. Like this is just a guide, but homebrew. Do it your own shit.
Yep. Oh yeah, it'll be well. I mean, they will come out with another one because they always do. It's always. I mean, at the end of the day, it's marketing and trying to sell more games.
I don't know. Wizards of the Coast has their hand in fucking everything right now.
Yeah.
I don't know if they're even focusing on D&D at this point. They got Magic the Gathering. They got fucking a movie coming. Isn't the D&D movie by Wizards of the Coast?
I think
so. It's supposed to be coming out.
But yeah, but they definitely do. Like actually, I used to play Magic the Gathering quite a bit. And that's
I love it.
What got me into Magic the Gathering is I worked for a company that was an overwrap. They were a packaging company, and they were contracted through Wizards of the Coast. And so we packaged Magic the Gathering and Pokemon cards. And that's how I got into playing Magic, is because I was like, we'd have these, what they were called hand lines, and there would be like a card that was defective. And we'd have to go through all these cards after they were cut into decks and look for the defect and take it out. And so I worked 12-hour shifts. So I'd like sit there and I started reading the cards because you get bored after doing the same monotonous crap for hours and hours. And I was like, oh, this seems cool. And all my friends played. So I was like, hey, you guys need to teach me how to play this. I'm ready. You know.
And then as you start sifting through cards, you're like, pocket that one.
Yeah, no. I seen more secure. There was more security at that place than at most banks. It was insane. Like they literally had security people walking around. There was, if you could look in any direction and you would see two things. You would see a clock and a security camera. In fact, and in bad product, like that was one of the craziest things. I had to work in the warehouse briefly where my job was to destroy bad products.
Oh shit.
Like I just threw things in a shredder. It was insane. I was so sad. That was probably the most depressing job I ever had.
As two people who work as security guards, yeah.
Yeah.
And before I got into playing the game, I collected. So like when I worked at that company, I started collecting the cards. I was like, oh, this is cool. And I started buying it and collecting them. And then finally I was like, you know what? This does seem like a fun game. I should learn how to play it. And then I learned how to play it. And then that was even worse because then I was buying like a maniac because I started playing competitively.
Well, before we wrap it all up, I mean, we might as well go back to, you being a comic and maybe actually talk about that at some point. So where's your favorite place you performed?
My favorite place that I've performed. Oh, I really enjoyed performing at the Ice House Comedy Club in Pasadena. That was always good. But honestly, I think my favorite place was in Provo, Utah, when I filmed my Dry Bar comedy special. That was such a fun show.
How many people are usually there, like attending those?
Well, so mine was a little different because of the COVID restrictions. So typically they get probably, 200 to 300 people are usually in that recording. But when I did it, they had COVID restrictions. So it was only like 50 people, 50 audience members plus the crew. So yeah, so there was that. But it was still so fun.
Yeah. Where's a place, like where's your dream place to perform?
Netflix.
Like, but where would you do Netflix? Like,
doesn't matter.
If you got Netflix? So if you got Netflix, because I think
definitely
Netflix
not Amazon. Sure,
I know.
Amazon.
So because doesn't Netflix allow you to choose the venue you want to do it?
I suppose it really depends on the deal that you're able to get with Netflix.
Well, if they allowed you, so if you got to do a Netflix,
I was gonna film a
choose.
special. I don't know. I mean, I don't really have there's not like a particular spot yet that I know that I'd want to go perform at. I mean, I always thought it would be cool if I got a special to film it at a theater like in my home state somewhere, just because
South Dakota.
Yeah.
Somewhere that has never happened.
Somewhere in probably somewhere in Sioux Falls would be cool, but there's a couple really good theaters in Sioux Falls that would be fun to do it at. They're smaller, but I think that would make it more intimate too.
There's actually quite a few Netflix specials now that seem like they're smaller venue type things.
No, absolutely. And I just know, I have a couple friends that just shot. They got to they're shooting season 3 of the stand-ups, and which are basically their Netflix versions of Comedy Central's half-hour specials, essentially. Yeah. So it's like they do like 5 or 6 comics, and they each get a half hour. And a couple of my friends just shot theirs for that.
They didn't get you an in.
It's not how it works. You gotta. I wish.
Selfish.
They're friends, but I didn't say we were necessarily that great a friend. We're not like close friends. Friends is used loosely in the comedy world.
You want to give us your best joke, if it's a story, whatever, just whatever you think.
Best joke.
Whatever one you love telling, whatever it is. That or your best heckler experience. One of those is what I want to.
I haven't really had any good heckler. I mean, I get heckled once in a while, but nothing like I haven't had no crazy heckle.
Something experience. That stops the show to where you have to deal with it. Yeah.
I mean, I did get a lady to flash me one time. She was heckling me and said something, and I don't know. I don't even remember what happened, but in the end result was her flashing me. I mean, that was pretty funny, but
sounds like the best case scenario out of that, I guess.
Right? Exactly. Oh, I guess this is an experience that was fun that I almost, I mean, I've talked about this a little bit where I almost got, I don't know if I almost got if you would call it a fight or I got threatened a guy like at an open mic when I lived in San Diego, I was making fun of the open mic. Not making fun and not even making fun of it. I was making fun of open mics in general, not that specific mic, but just open mics in general. And I opened up where I was like, oh yeah, we're here at the Salty Frog, which is the name of the bar. I'm like, yeah, it's open mic night. Open mics where dreams come to die, that kind of thing. Like just making fun of open mics in general. And a guy in the audience was super drunk and he thought I was making fun of the bar. And this particular bar originally was owned by a military guy who ended up, I think, dying in combat, and then so it was a military bar. It was like a Navy bar or whatever, and he thought I was making fun of the bar, and he got mad because I was disrespecting the owner, whatever, and he got up and came right literally in my face. So I'm like holding the microphone and he's like literally right here in front of my face, and I said, he's like, you better not be making fun of this bar, blah, blah. You know this bar, you know that guy. And he says his name, and there's a picture of the previous owner on the wall and a memorial to him, whatever. And I'm like, I'm not, I don't know what you're talking about. I'm not making fun of the bar. I'm making fun of the open mic. And he goes, my name's Mike. And I'm like, what? Your shirt says Tom. And it got a real big laugh. So he was wearing a mechanic shirt that said Tom. He's like, I got this at a thrift store or something. So his name was Mike. So now he thinks I'm making fun of him. And he's like literally in my face and nobody else is doing anything. And he's like, I'm going to, whatever. And so then I ended up doing crowd work, but with him literally in my face. So like, I think I was doing like a 10-minute set that night. And I literally did a majority of my set was just with him in my face. Because I also made fun of him because he was heckling throughout the whole night too. And I made fun of him because he looked like one of the guys from that Deadliest Catch. And so then I started making fun of that. I was like, oh, look, the captain from Deadliest Catch is here tonight. And like just going in on him and whatever. And that was a fun experience because I ultimately did not get punched or murdered. Finally, he went and sat back down and drank.
Finished off his night, right?
Yeah, but it was close. It was close. For all my jokes, though, you can go. I have a YouTube channel that has some of my material, and I have jokes on TikTok, D Bublitz Comedy on all the social medias. You can find some of my stuff out there. I have had a few jokes that have went viral on like TikTok and did really well on YouTube and Instagram Reels and things like that. Yeah. Well, my website is danbublitz.com, and that is spelled Bublitz. If you spell it the fun way, I don't guarantee what you'll find. That's on you, not me. And then I'm on all social media platforms as D Bublitz Comedy. I've got content everywhere. And then I have a podcast where I talk to other performers about their worst shows and what they learned from it to get better at comedy. It's called The Art of Bombing. It's a fun podcast in the sense that comedians tell fun stories about bad times that they've had on stage or at shows. And there's a lot of entertaining stories. I've had people like Louis Anderson, Dusty Slay. I just had Mike Kaplan on the show. So I've had Alonzo Bowden, and the list goes on and on. I've been doing that podcast for over 4 years, and there's over 200 episodes. So lots of fun shows there to listen to. And you can find that on wherever you're listening to this podcast. You can probably find The Art of Bombing. Otherwise, you can go to artofbombingpod.com and find more content there. So I think that's everything. Can you tell I've done this before?
Yeah. It's all You Hate to See It is available wherever you listen to podcasts. For all of our links, go down in the description and visit our link tree. The very top button on our link tree says become a patron. It will take you to our Podbean site for our patrons, and you can donate at $1, $3, $5, and going up from there. You get extra bonus content at each level that you donate at. It's a monthly donation, and we really appreciate it. At the $1 level, you get to join our exclusive Discord. And then you also get a bunch of bonus content, such as our Taskmaster special, which is a yearly event that we put on. You could, at the $5 level, or at the $3 level, you get our unedited video podcasts exclusively on our Podbean. Shut up, Jeff. I said
That was a word.
exclusively perfectly. Thanks so much for listening, everyone. Thank you, Dan, for coming on our podcast and replacing Nick.
Yeah, we'll see you. We'll see you
right.
next week.
Yeah,
I'm looking forward to it. I'm looking forward to coming back. Sorry, Nick, you're done. You're aced. You're axed. You're out. You're deuced. You're gone. You're all the whatever the words are for you're no longer part of this podcast. Fuck you, Nick. You're done. You're done, kid. Go sit in the corner. There's a new sheriff in town.
Let's end it. Yep. That's. It is I have traveled through time and space in the power of editing. I made it, and I will never be replaced. Cool. I just also got an achievement from